Welcome to Impressions with Al. Sharp Objects was written by Gillian Flynn and adapted to a screenplay by Marty Nixon and others. It recently premiered on HBO as an 8-part limited series. Gillian Flynn first got the idea for Sharp Objects when she worked for an entertainment magazine. In interviews, she speaks about how she grew up watching westerns, saw a certain type of violence on screen between men, and moments between fathers and their sons, and she wanted to write about complex female characters, family bonds and relationships, and female violence. I first heard about the show on NPR, where Lynn Neary discusses Sharp Objects and the complexities associated with the story. In her own words, Gillian Flynn talks about the types of stories she saw portrayed.
There were a lot of books about, can the girl find the perfect shoe? She then find the perfect boy to wear the shoe on a date with? What I really wanted to write about was the darker side of the female psyche, was, female violence and female rage, and, what made us do bad things, why we messed up, why we became violent, and particularly what that looked like generationally.
In the premiere, it's very clear that Camille Preaker, portrayed by Amy Adams, is hurting. She inflicts pain on herself in order to deal with the emotional weight caused by the loss of her sister and the complex relationship with her mother. The pilot clearly sets the stage for redemption, using the word incorrigible. Not a word that one typically uses, but it gets the message across. We see how this will be a story of seeking closure, healing, and maybe even forgiveness. So, I'm not a filmmaker, nor did I go to film school. I'm also not a television critic. I am just a television enthusiast. Simply put, I work in healthcare. So I'm going to end this video similar to how I end chart notes after assessing a patient, with recommendations. Firstly, the pilot flashback funeral scene would be more powerful later in the series. You're building and revealing Camille Preaker over 8 hours, so why rush into portraying a critical wound in the pilot? I understand the desire to differentiate Sharp Objects portrayed visually as opposed to solely the text. However, use flashbacks and these alternate realities sparingly. The unsettling mood is communicated by the color palette, the dialogue, camera angles, music, subject matter, and a variety of other factors. If we didn't have flashbacks, we would be insinuating and fathoming, developing our own backstory on Camille Preaker and her relationship with her sister. And maybe that wouldn't be a bad thing. Jean-Marc Vallée, the show's director, already does an impressive job in communicating a show which is vivid and unsettling. So I hope the flashbacks or alternate realities become more purposeful and contribute to the larger narrative as the show develops. There are some exceptions to this. The flashback of Camille in the hospital, along with her cohabitant Alice, portrayed by Sydney Sweeney, adds significantly to the narrative. We see Alice develop a bond with Camille, but more importantly, we understand more dimensions to Camille and why she puts up walls as a defense mechanism. During the first 4 episodes, I was looking for a real human moment of warmth between Camille and her mother. All we saw was how unnurturing Adora is, a seemingly helicopter parent with emotional tendencies. If Adora had been developed a bit further, had moments of warmth and well wishes for her daughter, that would elevate the complexity of the characters. Specifically, there was a comment where Adora says to Camille, "I thought maybe I could help her," meaning Natalie, "because clearly I couldn't help you." You have to show this to us, over the course of a few episodes. One phrase from her doesn't change my impression that she's a bad mother. Lastly, Camille's father, Alan, feels distant, removed, and vague. I believe there's an opportunity to develop this relationship and character further. Some questions I have are, what's the dynamic between Adora and Alan? What about Alan and Camille? Does Alan take sides? How did he deal with the loss of his daughter? Until the 4th episode, he could very well be a stepfather who entered the picture after Camille's sister's death. I'm looking forward to watching the next 4 hours of this limited series and will share my thoughts with you.